All right, Heather, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
I am 36. I grew up in Fairfield, Ohio. I have 3 sons and I'm married. Been married for 10 years. I have an 8, 7, and 2-year-old. They are all very active, keep me busy, and I work full time on top of that. So I'm constantly on the go.
And what's your job?
Paralegal.
And so are you sitting most of the day?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a typical job.
Yes. Work in an office, at a desk, type all day.
Okay. And what has been your total weight loss, and over what time span has that been?
I've lost 83 pounds in 22 months.
Woohoo! That's a huge amount.
Yes.
That's more than my 10-year-old weighs, so that's awesome. And then when you look back, think about when you first started to really gain weight. When was that?
It was when I got pregnant with my first son. I had to be on a steroid for like 4 months of my pregnancy, and I gained a lot of my weight when I was pregnant with him, and then I got pregnant shortly after I had him with my second. So I didn't have time to get the weight off, and it just spiraled out of control from there. And then after I had my second one, they're 17 months apart, I just could never get it off. I tried many different diets.
What are some of the diets that you've tried before?
I did Beachbody, the 21-day fix, the Atkins diet. I even resorted to trying. Do you want me to say diet pills?
Mm-hmm.
I even resorted to trying diet pills. I would, try to exercise here and there, but would never stick to anything, and I just never saw any weight loss with any of it. So I would just give up and go right back to the way I was, eating the way I was. I would just go right back to how I was living life before, and even when I was pregnant, then we had personal issues going on, and I ran to food for that. So that was how I handled it.
So food was your comfort?
Yes.
When you were stressed, when you were upset,
Mm-hmm.
Was there any type of food that you would turn to or preferred in those times?
No, just anything.
And when you ate, do you feel like your eating was out of control?
It was out of control, and I would sit at a desk all day, and I was just bored, a lot of times, so I would just grab something and eat it, and didn't matter what it was.
It didn't?
Mm-mm. No.
Would you ever eat quote unquote healthy foods at that time, or was it?
Yeah. And I would tell myself like, oh, this is fine, and it would. But then there'd be other times I would just overindulge, and I know I would.
So you identify with eating out of boredom,
Mm-hmm.
as well as for emotional comfort.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I think that's very common with
Yes.
individuals. Yeah. So you hinted a little bit at it, but when you were at your heaviest, what was life like for you on a day-to-day basis? How did you feel? What was your self-esteem like?
I was tired. I was always in pain. I remember my feet hurting so bad when I would just walk. I felt like my feet were always throbbing. I was chasing kids and tired, ran out of energy half the time trying to chase them. I was miserable. I was miserable in my marriage. I felt like I just looked horrible all the time. I hated going out in public. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to stay at home. I would not socialize with anybody. I was just miserable.
And with your clothes, did you at any time try to kind of hide yourself in different, did you wear darker colors? Did you wear baggier clothes compared to what you do now?
Yes, and I always had to wear just baggier clothes and make sure I'd wear something underneath that to just try to hide everything as much as I could. And then I realized at one point when I was in my largest size, I was like, this is just out of control. I've got to do something.
How many sizes have you dropped in total?
weight sizes.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And I mean, when we first met, you wouldn't wear shorts and you wouldn't wear leggings.
Nope.
And now you'll wear both.
Mm-hmm.
And not feel self-conscious while you do it, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
So, because you got some good legs now. It's awesome. So we talked about kind of the different diets that you tried. Why did you feel like they didn't work?
It was too much work to put into it, especially the 21-day fix. I did not have the time to portion out my food, figure out what I could have each day. I just didn't have time to do that. With 2 little kids, under 2, I didn't make time for myself. It was all about my kids. And then I did the Atkins, and that's just not, I just couldn't do it. I was like, oh yeah, let's cut out all the carbs and the bread, and I wasn't gonna do that. But the main thing was time, and I just felt like it wasn't, and the things that I was doing, it just wasn't attainable. I couldn't keep up with it.
And then what about exercise? You did exercise some?
I would try to, say, yeah, I'll get in a walk here and there, or but no, on a regular basis, no, I would never exercise.
Because you were too self-conscious?
Self-conscious. I didn't have the motivation. I would use my kids as an excuse. I would want to stay, and be like, oh, I have to do this, and I have to. I didn't put myself first for a long time. After I had my kids, it was all about them. And then that takes the focus away from your marriage, and then your marriage starts to slide, and you want to try to get that back in order, and everything slides.
I think those are some key, huge points that probably a lot of women can identify with. Not putting yourself first, feeling guilty if you do, thinking that, you have to center your world around your kids. Yeah, I think that's huge. So recently, it's, been within the last 2 years, you've completely changed. What was the aha moment? What was the light bulb moment? What made it switch and work that all those other times it didn't?
Well, I was at my heaviest when I got pregnant with my third. And so I was so scared because I thought, now I'm going to gain even more weight and be at my heaviest that I've ever been at. Because growing up, I didn't have to deal with this. I didn't deal with my weight gain until I started getting pregnant. But it was after I had my son in 2016. I had met you at that point, and we had just discussions, and I was like, I've got to do something. I was just tired of looking at myself in the mirror and how heavy I was. I was tired of it. And we met, we discussed just diet change alone at that point. We weren't talking exercise. And just by doing those little things, I started seeing weight loss. I lost like 30 pounds just without any exercise, just by diet only. And then, I don't know, I said, well, I think I started wanting to start to exercise and get into running because, again, you were a runner, and I started doing that, and then again seeing changes, the weight coming off, and I could do this, and I just haven't been able to stop since. Like I actually enjoy it now, which is the first time ever that I thought I would enjoy exercising as much as I do.
You're hooked.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You exercise 4 to 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And I mean, you do a variety of things, so it's not the same all the time. But let's brag on you a little bit because you went from never running, right?
No.
You were not a runner.
No, ever.
And then you started the journey, it was, I guess, the winter of 17?
Yeah.
And then February of 18, you did your first 5K.
Yes.
And then you did your first 10K in April.
Yes.
And then in October, you did your first half.
Yes.
Followed by the month later, 3 weeks later, a second half.
Second half, yes.
So within a time span of about a year, you went from not running at all, not even walking on a regular basis, to running a half marathon.
2 within a month of each other.
And that's amazing. And this year already, you have, 3 planned?
Yes.
3 halves and then other races as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you come from, at that time, what you were like 35, 34 when you first started. It's not like you're an 18-year-old.
Right.
You've had 3 kids. You had a kid that at that time was 1-ish. And now you have achieved all these goals that people often say I could never do, right?
Right.
So what made you change from I can't do this to an I can do this mindset? What do you think is that? Was that because it had to come down to having some, now all of a sudden, some self-esteem finally, right?
Yeah. I saw all this weight come off, and it was amazing how much better I felt. Like I felt like I could keep it up and I could do all of it. Plus I had my kids watching me. I mean, my oldest was 6, 7 at the time, you know, and he saw me doing it and he would make comments, and I just knew that if I didn't want to stop, and you just have to tell yourself you can do this. And by then, and your kids watch everything you do. And so I just had to keep pushing myself. It's not been easy. It was hard work. And, but if you tell yourself you can do it, you can do it. And no matter your size, your age, you can do it.
Do you ever still have days where it's hard?
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's days, there's days I don't want to do it, but I tell myself, just, you're going to have, in a few days, you'll have a day off. And then after that day comes, I'm like, okay, let's do this again. Like, I'm ready. But for the most part, I still really enjoy it. I actually hate having more than like one day off from exercise. But I can't imagine it not being a part of my life at this point, which is crazy to think about from where it was, you know, almost 2 years ago.
So talk about your diet. What has changed? Are you currently on a diet?
No.
So
no.
What do you do?
I've changed a lot of my eating habits. I've cut back my portions. I cut out pop. I drink a lot more water than I was drinking. Main thing is just watching what I eat. Just small little changes, which was what you've told me from the very beginning. You just gave me small changes to make. We cook at home a lot more. I try to just keep healthier options around for everybody. And sometimes they don't like that. I've tried to eat a lot more fruits and vegetables is the main thing that and vegetables I struggled with growing up, but now I love them and can't go without them at a meal. I pretty much have them every night for dinner. So that was, but portions were my main, because I used to just portions. I could just eat and eat and eat.
Yeah.
And once you cut them back, it makes it a lot easier because your body starts to.
So you're not starving.
No.
You feel satisfied.
Yeah. Now I had to teach myself, because the more I've worked out, I had to teach myself that you need to eat a little more. And I have noticed that, your metabolism goes up and you get hungry. And so I have to tell myself you need to eat. And I've had to teach myself how to reach for a healthy snack and what healthy snacks there are, what options I have. But that's the one thing I've noticed. I am hungrier now that I'm working out more. But
what's your favorite healthy snack?
You're going to laugh, but I will run to vegetables before I'll run to anything else.
And you just do frozen bag and microwave it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you put anything on it?
Nope.
Just eat it that.
Yep.
But you love it.
No, I love it. I don't even put salt on it. Or I'll eat almonds. I love to just have a handful of almonds. That's the one, because I like crunch, so I just try to. But yeah, vegetables is the one thing I really try to run to.
That's great. That's really good.
Yeah.
What's been the hardest thing, though, about changing your lifestyle?
The hardest thing was being away from my family as much as I've been away from them. That was the one thing I struggled with in the beginning.
To exercise.
When I was training for the half, I was gone 3 and 4 days a week running or exercising. And trying to get my whole family on board with it, which they've been awesome. My husband's been very supportive of it. But that was the main thing that I struggled with. And then there are days sometimes I'm like, oh, I could just go back. But no, I have to tell myself, look how far you've come, and you've done a lot in a short period of time. and you've made great progress. So
What's been the most enjoyable part of the process?
seeing, shopping and seeing the difference. Shopping has been buying new clothes. I mean, being down in the size I am from what I was, that's been the best. And seeing the transformation. Like, I actually enjoy going out, getting, because I have to dress up every day for work. So I've had to buy a whole new wardrobe for, work and personal. But now half my wardrobe is workout clothes at this point. But
Race t-shirts.
yeah, and race t-shirts. That's been the most enjoyable though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always fun. So when you do get discouraged, the biggest thing for you is just to look back and say, look how far you've come, and to keep pushing because of that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And I have to just tell myself, like, and there are times when I'll have like a bad workout and I'll be like, but no, it wasn't, because I have to look back and think, I couldn't do that when I first started. And now I'm doing that plus more. So it's just, I have days and then I'll reach out and you'll be like, okay, but Heather, look what you've done. And I have to tell myself that. So
Yeah. Now that you've kind of met your weight loss goal and you've done these races, do you have another goal, or are you setting other goals in the future?
now I just want to get faster in my races. Maintaining is going to be a struggle. That's one thing I'm going to struggle with. But I think just trying to better myself in these races and getting, beating all the previous times that I've had. Now I've got goals for those. And actually, I'm running 5Ks and 10Ks this year, so my goal is to just beat those every time, from the previous one that I ran.
Yeah. So what's your favorite food? When you, is it vegetables? Would you say it's vegetables now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's my favorite snack.
It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. I mean, especially if you
Never
think
would've
about,
thought that. No.
2.5 years ago, if you said that to yourself.
Yeah. I would have ran to a bag of potato chips or just something completely unhealthy. But now I'm like, just carrot. Any kind of vegetable that you can eat.
Good.
That's what I would snack. That's what I would prefer. I don't even miss any of that.
That's good. And what's your favorite exercise? Is it running?
It's probably running.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy the weight training too.
Yeah.
But the running is I feel like that is the best for me. I think that was the one thing that helped get a lot of my weight off, was all the cardio. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
And
it wasn't that you were super fast.
No.
Or, you started out walking most of it and running for a little bit, like 30 seconds at a time.
Yeah. And then at that point I was like, okay, I want to run a mile. So I ran a whole mile, and that was like huge. And then I would run a mile and walk for a little bit, and then I'd run 2 miles. And so it would just baby step it up until I think my longest run I ever did right before the half without walking was at like 9 miles. And I just couldn't believe like how you go from never running to walking. And then, I ran most of the half in October last year. I only walked maybe 30 seconds of the whole, a minute of the whole race. So,
yeah. And that's important to know, that I want to make it clear that it's not easy, right? It's still not easy.
No.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But it is something that you felt you were ready for, and that kind of clicked, you made that switch in your head, in your mind, to choose to live this healthy lifestyle, right? And you continue to make that choice, right? I think so often people see, okay, well, you've lost the weight, so it's easy, right? But it's still a daily thing.
Oh, yeah. Maintaining, I feel like, is going to be harder than actually losing the weight. And so, and I still struggle when I run. I still have, I'll run 3-4 miles, which is nothing compared, what I can do and what I have done. But there's days I'm like, oh my gosh, is this ever over? But yeah, maintaining is going to be the hardest thing now. But yeah, I've trained myself.
But you've been at this weight for how long now?
Over probably 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So
it's a great start for that maintenance.
yeah. And, I go up, a few pounds and I'll go back down. But that's just, I think.
Yeah. There'll always be a range.
Yeah.
It's impossible to stay with one, especially
Yeah.
as a female. Yep.
Yeah.
So, last question is, if there's people out there that's listening to you and they're at the beginning of their journey or not even, really starting that journey yet, what advice would you have for those that are either wanting to start it or are starting it and are feeling discouraged or, really starting that difficult when you first start getting on the healthier lifestyle? What advice do you have for them for the things that you've gone through?
Start with small changes. Don't go into it saying, I want to lose 75 pounds. You can't. Just start small and say you can do it. If it's cutting something out, like in your diet, then do that. Just make small changes and take it slow. And don't ever say you can't do it, because you can. Again, no matter your age, your weight, nothing. It won't stop you. Just make a goal. And if it doesn't have to be anything crazy long term. Just if it's a short term goal, then make that. But do whatever you feel like you need to do and tell yourself that you can do it. Because I told myself I was going to run a half, and I was going to run a half. And I told people that I was going to do it, and that held me accountable. Mm-hmm. My kids knew I was going to do it, my husband, and I wasn't going to let them down. I was going to do it.
And you've motivated your mom and your grandmother.
Yeah.
And they're both trying to change their lifestyle
Yes.
with exercise and with eating. And as well as a lot of your friends have been inspired by your journey, right?
Yeah. I even had my husband who ran a half with me.
Yeah, and let's make this clear. He is not a runner.
It's not, but
He did it.
He did it to be supportive, to
Yeah.
be with me. So I didn't have to run it by myself, and now he's running it again with me this year. So
That's amazing. So not only have you changed your life, but you've changed others' lives just by deciding to make yourself a little healthier. You're helping others.
yeah.
That's amazing.
So yeah, I wanted to, I had to do this for my kids too. I was just miserable, did not feel well. And I thought, I've got to do it. They're not getting any younger. They were just, the older they were going to get, the busier they were going to keep me. And I was just tired of being miserable all the time.
Yeah.
So, feels good.
Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
everything.
Thank you.
And thank you for sitting down with me.
Yep.